It's ALCS Game 3 in South Oklahoma. Javier versus Scherzer. Blummer makes a very bold prediction, but what else is new for Blumstadamus? Let's talk about it right now on Believe in Astros.
What's up, H-Town? Welcome to the Believe in Astros podcast, your home for all things Astros, with your hosts, sports writer Geoff Balke and Astros broadcaster and former third baseman Geoff Blum. Now, here's Balke and Blummer.
What is up, Astros fans? Welcome to episode 95 of the Believe in Astros podcast on the Believe Podcasting Network. I'm Geoff Balke alongside my partner Geoff Blum, and we're just hours away from Game 3 of the ALCS in South Oklahoma. Blummer, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Yeah, South Oklahoma at Minute Maid Park.
That's right, your favorite. I got to tell you, we'll jump right into this. It's been a gloomy few days. I mean, The weather has been absolutely spectacular in Houston, but we have a pair of Astros losses now to contend with. I've been thinking about it quite a bit, and watching, obviously, as the games is I hate watching us pitch. I always do. It's like one of my I just don't like it. It just makes me feel too weird. I love watching us hit, but I suffer for everyone else out there. That's why I do this, is for all of you. But we've seen a little bit of the same old Astros from this year. One pitching good outing, one pitching bad outing. A lot of silent bats outside of Yordan Alvarez, who continues to remain just unbelievable. What have you seen from is this more of what we've seen through the season? The whole "we are who they thought we were" kind of thing.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was kind of hoping after that Minnesota series that things would start to match up a little bit better with good pitching, good hitting, good defense, and all of a sudden we're rolling again into that ALCS and take care of a team that we've taken care of throughout the course of the season. But at the same time, that ugly home record just continues to rear its head and say, hey, remember me? And that's kind of where we sit now.
Yeah, it's just so crazy. I mean, have you looked at some of the batting numbers for this series?
Pitching numbers aren't much better. I mean, JD had a great start, but overall, the pitching has been just as bad as the offense.
Yeah, except for the bullpen, which has been spectacular. But starting pitching's
ridiculous. They're so good.
But if you look at the hitting stats let's go to the whole postseason. They have, Yordan, of course, is Yordan. I mean, he's beyond human. Honestly, Jose Abreu's OPS is 972, but a lot of that is due to the fact that he had 3 home runs in that first series. Michael Brantley, in fewer appearances, has a 1081 OPS, which is incredible. But some of these numbers are crazy. I mean, Alex Bregman is finally getting close at 758 OPS with 217 average. Jose Altuve is batting 160. His OPS is 472. And then look, as much as we've all wanted Yainer Diaz in there, Yainer's got a big 0 for. He's 0 for 10 with 5 strikeouts. It's been wild to watch these bats just really crater, and also really important situations. What's that? Which name? I know where you're going. I bet you I know.
Tucker.
Yes. And it's next in my notes. So check this out. I pulled this up the other day because I was very curious to see what his career postseason numbers are. And it's not great. I mean, for his career, his slash line is 238, 307, 394 with an OPS of 701. And on top of that, this is incredibly crazy. He's appeared in 57 games, and in those 57 games, he has 48 strikeouts. That is not at all the Kyle Tucker that we are used to. And he's at the center of this. They're talking about moving him down the order for tonight's game. I haven't seen the lineups yet. I don't think they're out. Again, we're going on the road. Is this going to change everything?
Dude, well, Kyle Tucker rakes in Arlington. The last couple of years, he has absolutely dominated the Rangers in that ballpark. Yeah. You just hope that translates into the postseason. But I would like to go back to a World Series in 2017 where game one, a George Springer at the leadoff position punched out every single at bat. And his manager stepped up and said, George is my guy. He's going to be in my leadoff spot. I'm going to run with him because he's been there all season long. He proceeded to go on a tear and win the MVP. I kind of feel that moving Tucker down would send the wrong message and maybe not be the best idea because you're still relying on this guy. If you are going to win series in the postseason, even though you haven't had to in the past, you need Kyle Tucker to get going. You need him to find his way. And I don't know if moving him down in the lineup and limiting his at-bats is going to do that.
Look, I totally agree with you on that. I don't think you can move him around. It's just it seems weird. You either stick with your guys or you don't.
Who do you replace him with?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are you going to, I mean, and I get, maybe if it's a lefty, you might think about it or something, but I just don't know. It doesn't make any sense. And the problem is so much deeper than that in the lineup at the moment with so many of these guys. I was saying that to last week, I was talking about this, saying that really the Astros need to be the Astros team that we've seen. They need to prolong at bats against starters, even if they're not necessarily getting hits. They need to 100%. Get up there, prolong at bats, because they need to get into the Rangers bullpen. And that this game needed to be a series of the Astros hitters versus the Rangers bullpen and the Rangers hitters versus the Astros starters. Well, we haven't really gotten that so much, but when we have, their bullpen has been pretty good, certainly much better than it's been, and we're just not getting the results, which is it's been very frustrating. It's hard to understand exactly why.
Yeah, it's crazy. I apologize if you can hear my dog snoring in the background. Good grief. Nice. She is out. We've just completely put her to sleep. But, that being said, I think it's pretty evident that Bochy has a couple of guys in that bullpen that he likes to go to with Spores and Leclerc. They have been fantastic. Down, Aroldis Chapman got to Yordan Alvarez, got smashed, and Bochy couldn't get out of that dugout fast enough. If he actually had ligaments left in his knees, he might have been out there quicker. But like you said, you've got to force Bruce Bochy to use guys to get to those guys, and that's where the weakness might be for the Texas Rangers. And I think what's even more interesting, and I agree with you wholeheartedly in the sense that extend some of these at-bats, fight through some of these at-bats, make them throw you 5-6 pitches in an at-bat, and see if you can't pile up some numbers and knock them out quickly and force Bochy to, some of those bridge guys. But at the same time, you're going to face Max Scherzer in Game 3. We don't know how far he's been stretched out. We don't know how he's going to react to the situation. Yes, he's very good, and the Astros have, bashed him pretty good even when he's healthy. But you still need to put together some good at-bats. And if they're able to maybe put, 40, 50 pitches on him through 3 innings, that would put a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety out in there in that bullpen. And that's where you need to find your way out there to get to the middle part of that bullpen to create some havoc, create some damage, and start to force, especially because you're going to have 3 games in a row in Texas. You could really thrash a bullpen if you're able to get to Scherzer early in Game 3.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. And I think what's interesting to me about the notion of getting to their bullpen is that the converse is true of the Astros. Like you really, I mean, in truth, whether Cristian Javier has a good outing or not is not a huge concern. I mean, they obviously the biggest key is just don't let him score a bunch of runs, but because they are big inning, eaters. But if you look at Cristian Javier and you say, okay, listen, if you can give us 4 innings and that's what you've got, cool. We can roll our guys out there and be pretty confident that we're going to be good. I'm not sure the Rangers can say the same thing. We just haven't put any pressure on them yet to make them prove it.
No, you're exactly right. You've gotten career outing. Well, Jordan Montgomery was a great pickup. That was a sneaky great pickup. He's been great in the postseason. Nathan Eovaldi made a couple of adjustments with his delivery, and he's been fantastic in the postseason. So, but you gave yourself an opportunity in game 2 because you did go out there and score 4 runs. If it wasn't for a 4-run first inning and a complete failure to execute by Framber Valdez, you might have split that home series and been up in Arlington only having to win, these next 3 games instead of being forced to win a game 3. But, it's going to be paramount. I would love to see 5 innings of Cristian Javier doing what he did against Minnesota, keeping that game close enough, knock Scherzer out with a pitch count, if not putting a ton of runs on him and knocking him out that way, and then getting to that bullpen and really starting to ramp up some pitch counts and force Bochy to make some decisions in game 4 and game 5. But if the road Astros show up, that should happen.
Well, that's exactly it. And let's talk about Framber for a minute. What happened to him in that game? He's been such a mystery this year. I mean, he has a no-hitter. He has games where he's just spectacular. And then he has games where it just doesn't look like he can't find the strike zone. When he does, he ends up throwing pitches just like right over the meat of the plate to guys that he shouldn't be throwing to.
And 2 strike counts.
Right. Now JV, he had a few problems, but he settled down and he made one mistake. Really, in that one pitch, he hung a slider, and that happens. But with Framber, it just never felt like he had any kind of control. And to see a guy like Framber Valdez yanked after like 2 2/3 innings, it's really kind of shocking, to see a guy that's supposed to be one of your aces have to come out after that short a period of time.
Yeah, and that resonates through that clubhouse too, because if you're one of the 8 guys playing behind him, you're sitting there going, okay, Framber's on the mound, we're going to bounce back, we'll score a couple of runs and he'll get us a bunch of ground balls, we'll turn double plays behind him, we'll pick him up, and then it's, cannon shot, seeing eye base hit, broken bat single, and all of a sudden he doesn't not yet. And I know he did last year. He pitched with a lot of poise last year, took his time, took some deep breaths, was able to regain focus. He hasn't been able to show that ability to regain focus after issues in an inning, and that's where I get a little worried. But what I mean by resonating through the clubhouse and resonating through the guys playing behind him is you sit there and you're like, okay, seeing eye base hit, damn, tough break. Now we've got to run around first base. We can turn a double play. Framber's a high ground ball guy. Another base hit. Error, and then all of a sudden you're going, oh no. You start to see the lug nuts start to go by the wayside, and you keep rolling down the road, and that tire goes flying, and all of a sudden the car wreck happens, and you're going, damn, we saw this coming. How do we not fix that? But it just seems like a lack of focus, and I'm not going to blame it on the pitch clock, but I feel like the pitch clock has affected Framber a little bit this year.
I could see that. I will say this too. You mentioned it, another error. I mean, this is something that look, out of everything else, you can the ups and downs with the team batting, the struggles with pitching here and there. The one thing you could always count on with the Astros is they would be solid defensively. That was the one thing you could really hang your hat on and say, listen,
that Minnesota series was exemplary defensively, and they won handily. To your point,
not just exemplary, really better than exemplary. I mean, it was stellar. I mean, Jeremy Pena, and look, Jeremy Pena is clearly the best defensive player on this team, and he continues to make great plays. But man, have they had some struggles on the infield with making plays. They seem to have it held down pretty well in the outfield. But man, some of the gaffes on the infield that they've had with throwing balls away or just not making plays when they need to, really been shocking and definitely has had a huge impact on the outcome of these ball games. I mean, that throwaway from Framber, that's just, you can't do that. Oof.
No,
in the postseason, it just can't happen.
Yeah, during the regular season, you can't give away outs, and it's postseason, you really can't give away outs to a team that's as hot as the Rangers are.
No doubt. I tell you what, Blummer, you played plenty of third base over the course of your career. I mean, you know how hard it is to make these plays anyway. But when we see the Astros giving away some routine plays, that's where you really start. I mean, granted, not as bad as last night when Arizona decided to let a pop-up drop in the infield when nobody could decide who was going to catch. That's when you knew the wheels were completely off for the Diamondbacks. Was when what's his name? The third baseman who's been around forever.
Oh, Longoria.
Who's out there. Yeah, Longoria comes up and he's just like, he's shaking his head. It's like, well, all right. This is what's happening. I understand.
That whole game was a blocked punt. Yeah.
Oof. My Lord. I'm going to ask you about that in a minute, but what do the Astros? Okay, we know kind of what's happened. What do the Astros do to right this ship now that they're going to be up there in South Oklahoma in the sprawling metropolis of Arlington, midway between Dallas and Fort Worth? What do they? I mean, right, Max Scherzer, we don't know what we're going to get from him coming back like this. What do they really need to do to sort of get this? Because it's a 7-game series. Your series ain't over. And God knows the Astros can suddenly blow up on you. What do they need to do at this point?
They need to realize that they are in a hotel. They need to order room service, do whatever the routine is. I know that there's going to be a lot of families up there, but they need to find a way to just get in the routine of, I wake up when I want to wake up. I have the breakfast that I normally have. They're staying at a great hotel in Arlington. Do what you do, see the sights, go to that lunch spot, just create the routine and the calmness of being in a place that you've been a great deal of time, and put up some ridiculous numbers. Go back and watch some of the video when you scored 39 runs in 3 games.
Tell me about
Go
it.
back and look at your record there in the last 2 years when you show up and it's 13-3 is your record in Arlington. This season alone, 6-1 in Arlington with the monster numbers I just told you about, and get comfortable and sit back and go, man, we're going to a place where we play in a lot of places where people hate us. They really hate us in South Oklahoma. So let's go up there and really, embrace the fans, suck in all the energy, the negative energy, and just return it through the swing and go out there and put up some numbers like we've done in the past, because they know how the ball is going to bounce. They know that turf is fast. They know that they're going to see the ball well, like Dusty said in that press conference yesterday. And they know that if they do get a hold of it, it has a chance to go a very long way in that ballpark. And they've proven that over the years. And Jose Altuve, like you're talking about, with his mid 400 OPS, which is insane to think about. Remember that time you hit 4 or 5 home runs in a row? Man, that guy was pretty cool. Let's bring him back. And then you've got some of these good vibes going. But it's all about good vibes and absorbing that negative energy and just returning it on them.
It feels like almost like they need to jump on this early. They need to create. Look, one of the things we talked about from that Twin series, the Astros seemed to they created traffic on the base paths. They just
traffic
get a guy
is
on.
Everything in the postseason.
Yeah, Jose Altuve bunt himself on. You'd get guys moving around the base paths. They'd take risks with steals. It was as if, it felt more like there was that sense of urgency. And certainly in Arlington, they should be able to represent that. I'm very curious personally to find out exactly what the crowd noise is going to be like. Because as you and I both know, that stadium is very well represented when it comes to Astros fans. I mean, the time I was up there this year, it was definitely at least 50-50 in terms of Astros and Rangers fans. So I'm going to be real curious to hear what that stadium sounds like. With Javier tonight, what is the key thing that Javier needs to do really to stay in this? I mean, it seems like his command of the strike zone has gotten better, which is good. But what is sort of the key for him against this Rangers lineup to help keep him moving in that same right direction?
It's paramount to keep the ball in the ballpark. And I think that's, I think we talked about it a couple of podcasts ago where I would say, hold down Seager and Adolis Garcia. You keep those 2 guys in the ballpark, you're going to be in good shape because you're going to force other people to drive in the runs. Right. Unfortunately, the backfire in that scenario is the Astros pitching has given up the world to the 7, 8, 9 hitters.
Who the hell is Leody Taveras? Who the hell is Leody Taveras?
He's only gotten out once. They've only retired him once. So it'd be nice to get rid of that guy and give Marcus Semien nobody on base to go hit with. You've got to control that lineup, and it should give you the opportunity. If you get through that 1 through 6, you should be okay 7 through 9. But credit to the Rangers, quality lineup. Jonah Heim hitting down there, Josh Young down there.
Yep.
So you should be able to handle that. For me, going back on Cristian Javier, go back to, a couple of his last 2 or 3 starts where we started to see that delivery kind of get back to normal, strong on the backside. He's upright, tall. The extension is there on the fastball that creates that good 4-seam rotation when he rips down through it and it rides through the zone. But I've been really impressed in the last couple of outings here in the postseason, late in the season, is that slider and curveball. The sliders looked really good, but he's also kind of flipped a couple of curveballs in there that I'm curious about. Just a change of pace and a change of break where you can kind of see hitters recognize and they go, what the hell is that? And by the time they figure out what to do with it, it's a strike and he's ahead in the count. So those 3 pitches have been great for him. And I think he needs to continue that. Hopefully, I believe Maldonado is going to catch him again. I haven't seen the lineup yet today, but I would imagine he's going to try and follow a similar sequence.
We're doing this at about, let's see, it's 1:20. I'm looking now. It doesn't look like the lineup's out yet. So I'm glad you mentioned that about Javier's curveball. One of the things that I've really been impressed with him when he's really got it working is the ability to throw the curveball high and have it break back down into the zone and fool guys where it looks like that fastball is coming. It looks like that 4-seam fastball. And then suddenly it falls off the table and it's right in the middle of the plate. That is something that we haven't really seen that much from Javier earlier in the season when he was trying to figure things out. As the end of the season came around, you would see that where guys, it would just buckle guys. They would just stand there looking at it because they were not expecting it. And I think that's a big deal for him, is to be able to get that pitch across. Because in the same way, if you throw that pitch enough and they see it, then the next thing you do is you start throwing it middle and it drops off the table completely. And then you get swings and misses. I think that's been a real key for his game.
You get late swings on the high fastball because it's in that same area and you're like, and you can't make the decision. You get blown up.
Exactly. I think that's been such a big part of his success in the last sort of like month of the season going into the postseason. And I'm glad you brought that up because I just think it's a really good point that I think we all love the invisible. We all think about, the invisible and how that fastball really is the bread and butter of his pitches. But that curveball has been wicked. It's been just super wicked. I love watching him. I love watching Cristian Javier pitch anyway. It's like
so
the guy
now you're
never
watch pitching.
Well played. Well played. Yes, I will. It's so hard in the postseason because it's so magnified. And I'm one of those people, like I'm a reformed remote control breaker, right?
Oh.
So years and years ago, when I used to watch the Astros and Rockets and whatever, I was the guy that would get so worked up watching every game that I would have to throw something, and not at a TV, just usually at the floor. That's usually how it felt. So I got to the point where I'd have to carry like a Nerf ball or something but yeah, I broke my share of remotes. Later on in life, I realized, okay, maybe that's not a good idea. One, which it's not. Please don't do that. And two, I started thinking, you know what? I want to watch this for the play on the field or on the court or wherever it is. I don't want to watch this for the pure emotion of it. Now, some of that coincided with me writing about sports, which made it a little bit easier because I'm watching it so much more frequently and I'm having to look at it a little bit differently than as a pure fan. But admittedly, when I get in the postseason, I get worked. It's just how it is. I get worked up, man. I get last year when Yordan hit that home run against Seattle, I was by myself in my house screaming. So it happens. So yeah, watching pitching is nerve-wracking. I can live with them striking out.
Yeah, pitch by pitch.
It's just like, I'm just like, come on, man. Come on, work with me. Get me to a hitter so I can leave. If they strike out in a hit, it's frustrating, whatever. But I can sort of live with it. When they're up there pitching and a guy jacks one, I'm just like, God, kill me. I can't take it. So this is where my fandom really does start to come out. There's no doubt about it. How has it been for you? You're used to the postseason of not calling games, but now you're doing some of the post-game stuff. How has that been as a change for you? It's got to be kind of different for you now, right?
Yeah, it's different. And the home games, I'm actually in the stands, so it's kind of it's harder to watch the game and get the information I need because I'm not sitting behind the plate or watching on a monitor, and I don't have both of my my computer and my iPad up telling me every single detail on every single pitch. So I'm lacking some of the intricate detail of a game. But at the same time, I'm watching it as a fan, so I understand the energy in the ballpark and things like that. And I can still kind of anticipate and try and figure some things out to get ready for the post game. But, it's weird sitting in my seat in the stands taking notes.
I was going to say, Blummer, you don't have a workstation set up at your seat, man? I would think the Astros would put you up. You get like 3 monitors in front of you. You get in the right there in section 103 or whatever it is.
Yeah. That would make way too much sense. But
not only that, but you'd spill your beer too often. Probably do some damage.
And it would probably sacrifice the intake a little bit. But I have not sacrificed that during the home games. But on the road, I'm able to sit there and watch the game a little more and get on my computer and investigate a little bit to get some more detail and be able to explain things a little bit better. But it's fun to be able to be, or at least, act engaged and be on the field after everything that happens, and feel like you're being a part of it. Yeah, it's been a lot more fun in that sense.
Are you going to be in studio for the game tonight? I mean, yes, afterwards?
I will be there for post game.
Okay,
yeah. Unless the Rockets trump what we're trying to do again.
I don't think the Rockets preseason. I think it's tomorrow. It's the Rockets because that's when they play. I think they're going to play Wemby. It's either tomorrow. I'm not sure what. Well, Blummer, it is.
Jeez,
I mean, it is just the playoffs after all, and this is for the Rockets. It's Blummer. I'm sorry to say, the Rockets are playing tonight. And listen,
that means we probably won't be on until like midnight. Then, awesome.
In fairness, you can also talk about Wemby playing for San Antonio. You mentioned they're playing San Antonio, so a little Wemby talk in the post game as well.
Talk about a wingspan. His release point would be like halfway to home plate.
I was just thinking that pitching. Can you imagine him batting? He'd have to stand like outside the batter's box.
Yeah, his arms would extend into the other box. Man, that'd be crazy.
Here's
that
one thing.
Strike zone would be insane.
I mentioned this when I had Stanton on, and I forgot to bring it up with you the last time. I proposed something for next year on the Space City Home Sports Network. I propose for just, let's say, a game or even maybe part of a game. I propose an announcer swap. That's what I'm proposing. I'm proposing TK and Blummer call half of a Rockets game, and we get Craig Ackerman.
Get Ackerman and Hollins over there.
Hollins. Get them over there into the Minute Maid booth and let them. I'm sure Ackerman would love it. Craig's a good dude.
Hollins would fall asleep.
I'm not sure what Hollins would do. I'm not sure what that guy would do. But I'm curious, Blummer, you ever tried calling a basketball game before? Have any interest?
No, but I know I would have as far as a team is concerned, I would have a distinct advantage because I know TK's called college basketball games in the past.
That's nice.
And his ability to prepare, I could just be like, that was a good pass, Todd. And he would just run with it and give every number in the world, proving me right. So he would do the heavy lifting on that broadcast for sure. I'd be like, dude, did you see that? That was insane. I'd be like that guy.
I'd like to hear the Meatloaf call during a dunk. That's what I'd like to hear.
Slamming some meatloaf would be awesome.
I'm telling you,
range meatloaf.
Get the Space City directors and all the brass on the phone because I have some ideas in this offseason. Listen, I'm gonna have a few ideas.
Yeah, I have a hard enough time convincing him to put me on the show, man.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking with now that you're both at the same network and everybody's all friendly and working together. I say a little crossover can't hurt anybody. It's like a crossover sitcom.
You're right, though. I bet those guys would be up for it, too. They're good dudes, man.
Especially in like preseason or something like that. That'd be fun. Spring training.
Mix it up.
If they had it, like imagine if the Rockets had a day off and they were in Florida during spring training. That would be the time to get Ackerman and Hollins up there, get them a little call on the baseball and see what's happening. And then obviously preseason for you guys could run the table with that. I can imagine TK would come out and they'd be like, wow. Maybe Craig Ackerman wouldn't want him doing that.
TK's good, man.
He'd be like, damn, I thought he was just going to come on there and have some fun. He's on there running numbers.
Yep. TK's the best, man.
It would not surprise me one bit. Real quick mention of the D-backs Phillies series. I mean, the Phillies, their lineup looks crazy. First of all, let's just mention that the entire Phillies lineup looks like the cast of Duck Dynasty. Let's just begin right there. But can they hit? Is there anything that they cannot hit at this point? My goodness.
No, those guys are possessed right now. They are putting together at bats like we've never seen, and just pummeling baseballs, making where are they playing at? What's the name of it? Citizens Bank Field.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already a small ballpark as it is. And then you put those guys in it and they make it look that much smaller. But credit Wheeler and Nola for being the aces. I mean, they've got two aces coming out of that rotation that look freaking phenomenal.
And let me tell you something too. Those guys, in terms of, they've had 4 guys. Is it 4 separate guys or just 4 times they've had a multi-home run game in this postseason, which is an MLB record? I can't remember if it was.
I think it's 4 times because I think it's both Schwarber and Castellanos.
Right.
Maybe or maybe that's Harper's in there too. But I think
that's it.
I think Castellanos.
I think it was Castellanos, Harper, and then sure, Schwarber, of course. He's a
Schwarber. But I mean, Trey Turner may have had one too. Shoot, man.
Good night. I mean, you just go down their list. They're serious. I mean, they were ridiculous before, but good Lord, they're pummeling everybody. One last thing, I wanted to mention a kind of a cool story that I read in The Athletic this morning. I'm not sure if you saw it, but the now former Marlins head of baseball operations, Kim Ng, is it Ng? Am I pronouncing that right? Ng.
Yeah.
She found out that things were going to change a little bit in the front office. Looked like she might get another boss, something like that. And she had a mutual deal to just stay for the 2024 season. She was like, I'm good. Thanks. And not a real shock. I mean, Miami's been kind of a mess down there. And of course, Bruce Sherman, their owner, sounds like a total freaking nightmare. But look, she's the very first female Major League Baseball executive. And to have the badass nature to be like, you know what? I'd rather work in a good situation than work in any situation. Kudos, man. That is that is ridiculous.
Well, what makes it even more impressive is that she's been in the game, and I'm not sure too many people know this. She's been in the game for like 20 years. She's worked her entire career to get to this point, to be the general manager. And by the way, she created a team there in Miami that competed in the National League East and got into the wild card round. Don't forget that.
Right.
She has created a culture of winning and gotten some players that can play. So her street cred is way up right now.
Yeah.
That combined with the fact that she's worked so long to get to that point. But like you said, to be able to have that that personal integrity to say, what? I want this job, but I don't like the situation. I can find better. Great call. Good for her. And, part of me when I did see that, I was like, dang, that's disappointing that she's leaving. But I was like, dude, how about the bravado to be able to say, like, you know what? I'm better than this and I don't need you. I'll go someplace else where I feel a little more welcome, because I'm sure she felt like that hire of a baseball ops president or whoever it was above her was kind of a knock. She took that. She took offense to that. Good for her for sticking up for herself.
Well, and you've got 4 daughters, so girl boss energy is a good thing, right? I mean,
dude, bring it.
The more the better. Look, Becky
more
Hammond
stories like that.
Becky Hammond is probably going to be the first female NBA head coach at some point, and it's going to be deserving. Now you've got something like 19 women working in the NFL as well. I mean, it's good for them.
I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, too. I don't know if you saw this, but I saw that I can't remember her name. She's with the San Francisco Giants. She filled in at first base coach a couple of times, but she's one of the coaches. I think she interviewed for the managerial spot, and that would be a first if that's true.
Oh, I mean,
can't remember her name. I apologize.
Yeah, I can't remember her name either. I did see that story, and you're correct. What a shock that you should pick the best candidate. Period. No, I mean, that's what you do. You pick the best freaking candidate. That's the end of the story. It doesn't matter what any other things that come into it. If you can, the one thing I've always loved about being a musician is that the only thing people care about when you're a musician is, can you play? That's it. Nobody cares about anything else.
It's content, right?
That's it. Can you play? If you can play, everybody's like, I don't care. And to me, that's one of the great, and I love that about sports. I love the meritocracy part about the athletics, where if you're good, you're going to get a chance, right? Sometimes too many chances if you're, certain people. I'm not going to bring up any names right now. There's a long laundry list of them. But yeah, man, great for her to be able to stand up and say, yeah, I love having a job, but I don't want just a job. I want a good job, as they said in the birdcage, I'd like this to be I know this is just a drag show, but I'd like it to be a good drag show. If possible, a great drag show. So good for her for taking that. I love stories like that. I love seeing people who have the chutzpah to make that happen. So that's awesome. So Blummer, any predictions for tonight? I'm very curious to hear if you have any thoughts.
It's going to be bold. I feel like everything is bold with the Astros because like we've been on this roller coaster ride for the last 6 months. Now we're trying to ride it for another month, and we're being tested. They're being tested, but at the same time, I think El Reptil, considering how he pitched out of some jams in Minnesota, it's only going to benefit him as far as experience. And if that baseball's coming out of his hand nicely, he's going to keep the Astros close enough. But at the same time, I think that the Astros can get to Scherzer, rattle him, and force him to pitch after not pitching for a good amount of time. And some of those pitches are going to end up being mistakes. And Kyle Tucker goes deep at least once in Game 3.
Oh, that's bold. Speaking of bold, that's a very bold prediction.
What happened last time I said that last year?
It did. Listen, man, I'm not questioning Blumstadamus.
He hit 2.
Nobody's going to question Blumstadamus. Not at this point. Why should we? Thanks, everybody, for joining us. As always, you can find us all over social media at Believe in Astros. Blummer's at Blummer27. I'm at Geoff Balke. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Sorry about my throat lozenges today. I'm getting over a head cold. So if you ever need one of these are handy. Just try not to unwrap them on the show if possible, so you don't get a lot of in the thing. Anyway, thanks for liking and subscribing. Keep doing it. We will talk to you soon. I don't believe this ALCS is over that fast.
No.
Right?
I agree.
I originally picked the Astros in 6. I'm not sure if that's going to come out true, but I think that this is going to be a longer series than people thought in those first 2 games. We'll find out tonight. So everybody, thanks so much for joining us. We will talk to you guys soon. Have a great rest of the week. And as always, go Astros.